Showbiz. The baby knows timing, you know. Speaking of family, there's a member of your family that became part of this Elvis world.
Yes.
And he is here this afternoon.
He sure is.
And he's threatened to, you know, if I get a little too non-appropriately inquisitive, to take care of me. And he was someone that helped protect Elvis, but he also helped protect fans, because fans can hurt themselves trying to get to Elvis. And your brother is amazing.
He's a remarkable person. He has done so many things on his own. He went through law school, put himself through law school, working 60 hours a week as the sheriff's deputy, became a judge, juvenile court judge, a civil judge. He went on to run my ex-husband David Foster's business and legal affairs and his record company. He has been the commissioner of utilities in the state of Nevada. I mean, he's really an overachiever and a lot smarter and better educated than I am, but he is a brilliant man and a big teddy bear, a big softie, and he's my only sibling, my brother Sam Thompson.
Sam Thompson. Judge Sam Thompson.
Yes, the judge. Former judge. You still have to become judge.
I think it's like a Marine. Here he is.
And as we say in the South, he'll be here directly.
He's doing dramatic input. It's all about family.
See how I respectfully stand up for you? Okay, that's enough of that.
Thank you.
Give us a hug.
I sort of dozed off there.
You dozed it off. Look at that. Yeah, look at us.
You got the memo.
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us.
Well, following Linda is difficult, so you see why I prefer to work alone.
You've been back there. Everybody's been talking about they've run into people. Larry hadn't seen Stump in a number of years. I mean, everybody's back there just kind of getting interrupted to come up here with me from the real cool stories that are going on back there.
Right.
Yeah, Pat West is back there.
That's right,
The Red
yeah.
West widow. She's lovely.
That's it. She said she's writing a book.
Oh, really?
That's what she told me, so you've heard it here.
Yeah.
Should be a good one.
What's been your experience this week? I've been seeing a lot of fans posting about meeting Sam Thompson. You're very open with the fans, you know, because you spent your career with Elvis having to not be a part of the fan world and meet them and get to know them because you had to protect people and Elvis.
It's a bit ironic, really, and I often said, you know, sometimes when I make speeches, I'll say, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the guy that kept you from getting too close to Elvis. And that doesn't usually go over very well. But it's really true. But, you know, Elvis loved his fans. And one of the cardinal rules was don't hurt the fans and don't let them get hurt. And, you know, during the shows and a lot of the videos you've seen of shows, Elvis is leaning over and he'll say, be careful. You know, you're trying to get a scarf, and Elvis is pointing and say, be careful, be careful. He's actually saying that on the stage. So we were very cognizant of that, you know, and he appreciated his fans. He told me one time that I used to take him through these little back kitchens and places like that. And one time I told him, I said, you know, that's dangerous. That's how Bobby Kennedy was shot, you know, going through a kitchen like that. And it's a little bit dangerous. And he said, well, I'm going to stop and sign these autographs. And I said, well, at least don't ask everybody their name and take a lot of time. And he said, look, these are the people that made me. And he said, yeah, a lot of times people didn't know how to spell Elvis. So he said, I like to ask people how to spell their name so that I get it right. And I'm going to tell you something. I ran for judge here, and that got me elected. That little thing right there. Remember somebody's name, and they'll remember you. So, you know, he ingrained in all of us that the fans were the most important thing to him. He loved all of you. I guarantee you that's the truth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, Elvis had a great love of law enforcement, and you being a member of law enforcement.
He overlooked me, but he didn't like law enforcement.
he fancied himself to be sort of a member of law enforcement. We had on our car, he got a blue light that he put on the dash, and he would literally run people down. I mean, not run them down, but he would chase them down with the blue light flashing and pull them over and say, "You're speeding." Come, honey, we had no seatbelts ourselves, but he really, he loved to play cops and robbers. And he became really good friends with the Denver Police Department when we were there, and he got the badge, from President Nixon during
George
that
Bill
time.
Morris,
Bill Morris.
the sheriff then. And, it was funny because he already had one or two of those blue lights. But one year at Christmas in '76, I asked him, I said, "What would you like for Christmas?" He goes, "What do you get Elvis, right?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I've been watching that Streets of San Francisco show." And he said, "That blue light," he said, "mine isn't working right now." And he said, "I'd like a blue light." And I said, "Well, now, Elvis, that's police issue. I don't know if I can get you that." He said, "Well, you asked me what I wanted, and I told you." Sounds about right. So I went to the sheriff, Roy Nixon, who was the sheriff here, and I told him what he wanted. And he said, "Well, that's police issue. I'm not sure." I said, "Hey, that's what Elvis wants." He said, "Okay." So I had, back in those days, you had to get an invoice and take it to a police supply company. You couldn't just buy those things anywhere. And so I gave it to him for Christmas. He was tickled to death. And about a week later, the sheriff, I'm in a squad car, and the sheriff calls me and says, "Listen, we may have a problem." I said, "What is it?" He said, "Well, Elvis has been stopping people, and now he wants a ticket book." He had Joe Esposito call the sheriff and tell him he wanted a ticket book. And I said, "Oh God, don't give him a ticket."
And even before Tennessee was an open carry state, he had guns everywhere, in his belt and in his boot. So he was packing too.
Yeah. It's one of those kind of things with, we have a part of the bus tour where Angie found this great photo of Elvis over at McCullough Lake, which is actually much closer than you think it is, and it's hidden. And Elvis is in a boat, and they've handed him a book, and on the book it says rules and regulations for the lake. And you can just see Elvis like, really? This is rules and regulations? So,
it didn't apply to Elvis.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just kind of one of those.
In life, period. It was Elvis, and he got away with so much because he was so extraordinary and so lovable and funny and brilliant, and so he got away with a lot.
One of the fans last night reminded me of the story. He's from Nassau County, New York, and in and they were telling me they were at the airport when we landed, and they recounted this story, which I do remember largely, that when Elvis, and back then it was against the law in New York. They had something called the Sullivan Act, and off-duty police officers couldn't even carry guns. So it was kind of a big deal to have weapons. Of course, Elvis always had weapons. So I'm standing at the bottom of the metal jetway with the colonel and Dick Grove and the chief of police. And Elvis comes out, and about 400 fans scream, and when they do, Elvis does this. And 245 automatics slept down on the inside of that tracksuit that he had. Looked like two rats trying to get out. They hit the top of his shoes and bounced on every metal step of that jet. And they landed at the feet of the chief of police, who turned and looked at me like I had three heads. And Dick looked at, I thought we were going to jail, And Elvis jumps down, bounds down like he would do, walks right up and says, "Hi, Chief, I'm Elvis Presley." Chief picks the guns up, hands them to him, and says, "I believe these are yours, Mr. Presley." True stories. That's, he can get away with anything.
How did you, so Linda, you're with Elvis, and I'm assuming at some point Elvis wanted to expand his staff and to get some more people on. Were you responsible for
his meeting? Yeah, of course, because well, I introduced you to him. Yeah, when, early on, Elvis wanted to meet my family because I had met his whole family. So I invited Sam and his wife Louise and Mama and Daddy and Ninny and Papa. My grandparents, they all met Elvis and came and had dinner there a few times, and of course he knew Sam, And when, I guess when Red and Sonny left, you know, he needed another security person, and I said, you know, Sam's on the sheriff's department. I mean, and so he said, yeah, that's right. You think he'd be interested? I said, you could ask him. So that's how that came to be.
Yeah. And I was so honored that, I mean, he asked me, you know. So, of course, he'd been so good to my family. You know, he bought my mother and dad a house. Of course, he bought Linda a house. He bought me a house. He had just lavish gifts on us. Cars. And, you know, we felt like it was he was part of the family. And so when he called and said he needed help, I was more than happy to help. I went to the sheriff the very next day, and Roy Nixon again, and I told him that I'd talked to Elvis the night before, and I said, I think I'm going to leave the sheriff's department and go with Elvis. But I'm really conflicted because I've been with the sheriff's department like 5 years, and I had rank. And I said, I need some advice, Sheriff. And the sheriff took his glasses off and leaned over and says, does he need 2 people? Always remember that. Roy Nixon. And so I was sort of relieved, you know, I'm doing the right thing here.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, I left with the wherewithal that I could come back anytime I wanted. And 2 weeks after Elvis passed away, I was back in a sheriff's uniform.
And going to law school, I was telling them how accomplished you are in your other careers, you know, besides just being Elvis's bodyguard for a year and a half, right? Yeah, and you know, it sounds so daunting, it sounds so outrageous, which it was, that Elvis bought me a house, he bought you a house, he bought your parents a house, he bought cars. He was doing that for so many people, his housekeepers, for strangers.
Yeah.
He was the most extraordinarily generous person in your imagination. I mean, his nickname, you dressed like Santa Claus last night on your show, but his nickname was Santa Claus, and other nickname was Crazy. On the back of his ID bracelet, it said Crazy, because he was insanely generous. And like I would say to him, honey, you don't have to do that. That's crazy. That's too generous. He said, hey, that's like a bottle of perfume for me, giving away a bottle of perfume. He was just, I'm rich. He was very funny about it. You know?
Tell them you wanted to. Yeah, you wanted to do something for Elvis, so you decided to.
Oh, the Christmas gift?
No, the coming down and cooking.
Oh, cooking, yeah. So he would say, you know, we had 4 housekeepers 24/7. We had Lottie and Lottie and Mary in the daytime, and then Pauline and Nancy at night. So, and they would alternate, but those 4 ladies were our housekeepers. So there was always someone there to cook for him. But he would say, sweetheart, would you go down and make me some bacon and eggs? I said, well, would you like Pauline to do it or Lottie? No, I want you to do it because you do it with TLC, and it just tastes better when you cook it. I can taste the love. So, because I would make him peanut butter banana sandwiches and things like that. So I went down, and the first time that I ever made him bacon and eggs, you know, I put it on a tray nicely and walked back up the back stairs of Graceland, and we used to put a towel down on the bed and just eat while we were sitting in bed. So I put it in front of him, and he looked at it. He said, what is this? I said, well, that's 3 scrambled eggs and 4 slices of bacon and some toast with butter. Honey, when I ask you to make me bacon and eggs, I want to see at least 6 or 8 eggs on the plate, and I want to see half a pound of bacon, and I want to see half a loaf of bread. I won't eat it all, but I'm rich. I just want to know that I'm rich. I used to be hungry when I was a kid, and he says, and I want to see a lot of food in front of me, and I won't eat it all, but you know, I'm rich now, and I want to see it in front of me.
Yeah, he was funny like that. I'm seeing you're wearing blue jeans, and that's something that he would not brook. He called them farm clothes because when he was a kid, that's what he had to wear. And so, I mean, and of course what happened was after a year or so, you know, and it was the 70s, all the guys were all wearing jeans, but he didn't like it. He didn't like you to wear jeans.
He was so cute when he ate too. This is a little story that, you know, most people can't imagine. He was like a little child. He would sit cross-legged in the bed, and when he was trying to watch his weight, which was often, he would eat honeydew melon at night. So he would sit there with his little honeydew melon, and every bite he would do a little dance like that. It just tastes so good. He would do this little dance while he's sitting cross-legged in bed, and I'll never forget that vision in my mind. He was so cute and so lovable.
Yeah. You guys have both had careers in entertainment and worked with people and have worked with all level of great artists. And you've discovered within entertainment, they're Elvis fans as well.
Oh, everybody from Whitney Houston to Frank Sinatra to, everybody. Gosh, Bruno Mars, little Bruno Mars dressed like Elvis.
Yeah.
And The Rock just recently toured Graceland. So, yeah, everybody that I met, Barbara Streisand is a friend of mine and has recorded songs that I've written. And Barbara almost did that movie with him.
Mm-hmm. Stars Born.
Yeah, she came back when we were in Vegas when he was performing, she and John Peters, her then boyfriend, and he came very close to doing that movie.
And of course, Whitney's mother was Sissy, who was in the
That's
Sweets.
Yeah.
I know when we had the record company and I was in Germany with David, and we met with the producers of this show called Vettendas, which is like the Tonight Show in Germany. And we're sitting there and we're trying to get Josh Groban on the show. And this German fellow was sort of stoic and wasn't going very well. And David passed me a little note and it said, "Play the Elvis card." So I was very slick, so I mentioned Memphis and I mentioned Linda. And I kept dropping these little hints. And suddenly this guy goes, "Sam Thompson, you worked for Elvis?" I said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Well, let me ask you." I said, "Well, hold on a second. Is Josh?" "Oh yeah, don't worry about that, but let me ask you a question." I mean, it just opened doors, and it still does. It still does.
Play the Elvis card.
Play the Elvis card.
It's time to do it. Yeah, well, that's it.
I wrote Josh Groban's first hit, "To Where You Are," and it was inspired by my love of Elvis and the loss of Elvis. It's called "To Where You Are," and it was featured in Ally McBeal, and it was Josh Groban's first hit.
Oh, wow.
And I wrote the lyrics.
And Michael Bublé does a wonderful Elvis impression.
Yeah.
He's a huge Elvis fan.
He's a huge Elvis fan, and he does a great Elvis impression.
His duet on Fever with Elvis is like one of my favorite duets of Elvis.
Yeah, no matter how great the entertainer, how famous they are in their own right, they are reduced to a puddle when they met Elvis in person, or even when you talk about Elvis to them. I remember I was having a conversation with Stephen Bishop one time. He was nominated for 7 Grammys, and we were talking about his songs On and some of his other hits. And I said, "Well, when Elvis, blah, blah, blah," and he said, "Wait, let me just stop you right there. When you say, when Elvis did this," he said, "it's like, well, when God spoke." So they all think of him as what he was, the originator. He was the original megastar. Yeah, he was the OG, right.
He's the reason that we are all here gathering like this to remember him.
Like John Lennon said, before Elvis, there was nothing.
Yeah.
They were all inspired by him.
And of course, our running joke for years has been Elvis Week, the only week that is at least more than 7 days. It's going to be more than 7 days. But Elvis overdid, big collars, big rings, big cars, big house.
Big entourage.
Big entourage.
What is your line that you say, the one line that Elvis never uttered?
Oh, we talked about a lot back in the mansion. I said the one thing Elvis never said. "You think I overdid that? You think that's too big?
Is this too much?
Is that too much? You think that's too much?
You never did that.
Too many rhinestones? You think too many?
Too many studs on this jumpsuit, or?
One of my favorite Lowell Hayes story is that he was on tour with us, and Elvis sent him back. This is in '77, and we were in the Carolinas. And Elvis said, "Go back and get some jewelry and bring it on tour." And so Lowell was on the edge of the stage over here during the show, and Elvis was doing his show, and he was motioning like this. So Lowell brought the tray out and sat on the edge of the stage, and Elvis would walk around and pick a ring up and give it to one of the suites, and he'd pick another ring up and hand it out to the audience. And so when we got Elvis in the limo to leave, Lowell's beating on the window, which he almost never did. And so Elvis says, "Let him in." So we let him in, and he's sitting there and he's just nervous. He said, "Elvis," he said, "I should never have come. You gave away something like $80,000 in jewels tonight." And Elvis leaned over and said, "Lowell, tomorrow night I'll sing 15 minutes longer." And that just encapsulates the way he felt about tangible things. It just didn't mean anything to him.
And he derived such great joy in giving. And he used to say to me, it's a far greater joy and privilege to give than to receive. And he literally felt that way. He derived so much joy from giving things to people, and especially exorbitant gifts like that no one would expect. And he said just the look on the faces, it fortifies him. You know, he really, really enjoyed it.
I mean, he loved the expression on your face of being surprised and being thankful, you know. And I think a lot of that came from his poverty-stricken childhood when he didn't have much. His father told me after Elvis died, I was over there, and he said when Elvis was a little boy, he used to give his toys away. I think you know that too.
Oh yeah,
Had guns. And,
Well, his most prized possession when he was a little boy in Tupelo was his comic book collection. And he told me that he got filled with the Holy Spirit one day. He felt like, you know, he was really filled with the Holy Spirit, and he ran out in the little dirt road and was handing out all of his comic books to his friends out there. And I think that spirit of generosity, that was probably the genesis of that spirit of generosity, when he felt like he was filled with God, you know, filled with that all-encompassing sense of generosity, and went out and gave his most prized possessions. This was something that he hoarded, you know, but he gave it away. Just like he gave away his talent to all of us.
And in that spirit, we'll be passing a bucket around.
He's not kidding.
We have the ushers, please.
I wanted to end conversations with brother and sister.
We were just getting started.
Together. You haven't been out here like I have. Since 10. Come on.
These people are so nice.
They are. Well, I can talk a little bit longer.
No, I'm kidding.
But it means a lot that brother and sister are here. Memphis is a very special place, and if you're not from the South, I think you feel you feel it when you go outside with the heat. Welcome to the South, but there's just something different about we kind of slow things down a little bit, and this, you know, the Southern drawl comes from the fact that we could enunciate the words, we just don't feel like it sometimes. You still know what I'm talking about. And it meant a lot to me growing up and hearing the southernness in Elvis and reading about a guy, and it's an inspiration. The story's an inspiration to everybody of what they can achieve, and to have friends and loves in life like the two of you. Must have meant a lot to him. It means a lot to us that you come and share some of that.
Honored to do so. Honored and privileged to be here. And I know Sam feels the same way.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It reminds me I've got collard greens in my blood, you know.
Must have been to Cracker Barrel.
Must have been, which I didn't get to go to.
Hit it one more time. You can come with me if you want.
Well, you can catch Linda's next performance. She'll be at the Cracker Barrel.
Collard greens for everybody. No turnip greens. I'm here for turnips.
Yeah. Well, you can shop for gifts while you're waiting on your table.
Love that. Do you guys love the story as much as I do? I got Christmas ornaments when I was there after my lunch of catfish, and I picked up a few things for the new baby and the other grandchildren, cute little dresses and things. So fun.
Your brother's making faces behind your back.
That's par for the course.
But in a loving way.
Oh, sure.
A loving way.
Well, it's wonderful that you, like I said, you share that love of Elvis with all of us, and we so appreciate you guys and the life that you've led, and thank you for being a part of this and helping make our Elvis week.
I just have to say too, like to reiterate what Sam had said, that Elvis adored his fans. He really appreciated them. Like he would say, I'd give him the shirt off my back. They put that shirt on my back, as he said. And you guys have carried on his legacy, and it's all because of you that he still lives today. He's as much alive today as he was when he was breathing, because you have kept his spirit, his music, his legacy alive. So thank you all so much for loving him. It means the world to me, and I know all of us who really loved him Thank you so much for
Thank you
being
all
so
for
devoted.
being here and spending this time with us. I ran long, but you know what? It's Elvis week. It's always bigger. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Candlelight Vigil tonight. We will see you there.
God bless you all.